we're talking about mentoring today. If you're just starting your business off at the moment and you're thinking to yourself, we all don't know everything, do we? And there's going to be people out there that are going to have that key information that we really do need to have. And where do you go to get that? And when you get it, how do you know it's going to be any good? How do you know the mentoring is going to be any good? You've already laid that criteria down. You say these people that are your mentors have had to have, on average, 16 million turnover?
No, they have to have started, built and sold a company for a minimum of 4 million.
4 million. So the
average is 18 across the portfolio.
So these people do know what they're talking about?
Correct. They've been through it themselves, multiple times. Is
it enough, do you think, Jonathan, to have a mentor who will sit and talk to you and go through the processes? Is there more, do you think, that is needed for a business that is starting up at the moment to develop and to grow and to be successful? Is mentoring enough for success?
Sure. Well, the short answer to that is no, not at all, no way near. Going back to what you were saying before about, yes, the mentors within Rockstar have been through a journey that most entrepreneurs would love to do, and a very, very small percentage actually do. So there isn't much that you have not learnt or been through yourself by starting something, building it up, and then selling it on to someone else for a lot of money, right? There's not much you haven't been through and learned. And that's always been our criteria. However, I've met a lot of very wealthy entrepreneurs who would make the worst mentors in the world. Their favorite words are I and me.
What do you think makes a good mentor, then?
A good mentor is someone who genuinely cares about the success of the business piece, the person that they're working for. You've got to, and their passion for it comes from the passion of the entrepreneur. And a great mentor-mentee relationship is one where the mentor themselves are very fond, not just of the business, but the individual themselves. So it very much is a two-way relationship. But as is it the be-all and end-all to be successful in business? It's not. It's not enough, because a good mentor are the ones who can lift up the bonnet and very quickly assess why the business isn't doing well and what needs to be done to achieve success in it quickly. So how do you guarantee, or how can you measure that mentoring is good? That's a very, very good start to a successful mentor-mentee relationship, is when you're leveraging off the experience of someone who can very quickly say, as I said before about that helicopter view, this is why it's not working and this is what you need to do to fix it. And for the first few years of Rockstar's life, that's all we did. This is what's wrong with it, and this is what you need to do to fix it. For example, your marketing costs are ridiculously high. They're not generating the leads that you need, and that's why your salespeople are not getting the conversions that they want. Why are you spending this much on your marketing? You can do all this for free now. Do you know there's this that you can do? Why are you spending so much? They spoke about the office space. I said all this in the previous section. So a few years ago, we thought, do you know what? Rather than just tell people what the problems are and then tell them what the solution should be, let's own the solutions. And let's give them the solutions for a big discount in comparison to other companies that offer sales or marketing or app development or office solutions, etc. Because the last time I was here, we spent a lot of the time talking about our investment side, because we are not just a mentoring company. We really we state these days, and have for a long time, that the Rockstar Group is a resource bank for entrepreneurs and investors. The mentoring element is just one of those resources. So over the last few years, we started to, through partnerships and acquisitions, build up all the different resources in-house that we can now offer our business owners at different levels.
Now this is really exciting, isn't it? Because it now means that when somebody comes to you, doesn't matter what size business they actually are at the time, the resources are going to be there. Now, I don't want this to sound like it's a plug for Rockstar, but it just means that the additional resources that a business needs to grow and develop are all sitting there waiting to be plugged in and switched on.
Spot on. Half the time, we now say to people, you actually don't need a mentor. You don't need a mentor, right? This is what's wrong. Like, have a few hours initially, and they're going to outline and show you what the problems and what the solution should be. But what you need to be investing in are those solutions.
Give me the typical scenario then, somebody coming in, they're asking for mentoring from you, what is the typical path that they would take then to get or to use some of these additional resources?
Sure.
What are the triggers that do that? Is it the mentors saying, as you were just saying, is it, you're spending too much on marketing, have you thought about doing marketing like this? Your sales team aren't effective, you're maybe outsourcing your sales team, perhaps you should maybe consider doing it like this. Is that what happens? Is it driven by the mentor, or is it driven by the entrepreneur who is talking to you?
It's driven initially by our sales team. So when clients and new potential clients come to us via our different channels, what we want to find out from them very quickly is where the current business is. What are they spending on marketing? What sales are they achieving? What are some of their other fixed and variable costs that they have within the business? And so we gather that information firstly, and at the same time, we also then ask, which is the most important thing to build a successful client, is to ask that individual, what are you doing this for? What's your goal? What's the number that you want to be selling this company for in the future? Or how old do you want to be when you retire? Because we can tell you right now, based on what you've told us, in terms of this is the current sales in the company, this is how long you've been going for, this is what the costs are. Yes, we can look at stripping some of these out, etc. But before we spend any time doing that, tell us, why are you doing this? What's the goal? And you'd be amazed how often what they really want to do compared to what they're doing here to try and get to that real goal.
A real disconnect.
And so that is where it starts, my friend. And then that helps us in terms of our mentoring managers. Once we know the personal goal side, along with what the dog, right, which in most cases a lot of these businesses are, that's just hindering them, that has them on the leash effectively, the entrepreneur, just the time and effort they're putting into this, it's just not hitting and leading to where they want to go. Once we've got that info, then we can really give them a solution.
Because they don't know what they don't know? Is that an issue that a lot of the entrepreneurs have when they come into you? So they're doing it in a particular way because they don't know that's not the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I give you a great way to define it. The answer is yes. Remember before how I said I've always believed the harder you work, the luckier you get. Yeah. And I've always believed it's not what you know, it's who you know. And the guy who blasted me for that is actually inside my organization now. Because that's how I've always lived. That's how I've always done business. Because I'm a sales guy, I just need to know who's got all those connections, to build the relationship with that. I'll get it in and we'll go from there. But is it a case of if you don't know what you don't know? Absolutely. Because I got fired back and said, mate, it's everything about what you know. Because that gives you that advantage. Knowledge is power is another way that you can put it. And so many entrepreneurs don't know how they can structure things. So many investors don't know how they could do things to ensure and hedge and guarantee their returns. The great thing that you've got, Jonathan, is that you've got a fantastic network and you can call them up anytime and ask for advice or a connection. That's great. But it's the knowledge of what you're building and creating for the market, which is where the real fun is.
Well, but let's look at the way that you're structured at the moment. I would imagine there are other mentoring organisations out there that are similar, but you are quite, in this particular instance, you're quite unique. So just explain the structure of the way Rockstar is and the services then that you're providing to the individual entrepreneurs when they come in through the door.
Sure. They come through the door through coming to our workshops, events, our website, but of course now our international mentoring app. So by interviewing all of the mentors from here now, we've got we're 8 in Australia, 3 in China, 2 in the US, and we're growing. Users can now download the app for free, create a profile on it because they themselves can market themselves in the platform. And for the mentoring side of things, and this is where we're really going towards, is they for free can say, I want to get mentored. It then says what sector are they in, so they tell us which sector they want their business is in. So that could be retail, for example. So I'm in the retail sector. Then it says what do you need mentoring in, and there are 9 different categories, from starting up, selling, increasing sales, going global, and selling your company on. So they can say, for the first time I've ever seen in the world, you can say as an entrepreneur, I'm in the retail sector and I really need advice now on my sales. And therefore the only pieces of content that come up straight away are the people from that sector very well-known and respected entrepreneurs, giving you the advice via a pre-recorded video on sales for free. You get to watch all the different personality types, and then you get to choose which one you want to engage with for one-to-one.
Now, I can see the advantages on two sides. So the entrepreneur is talking to you, is getting the benefits of all of this. But of course, you're getting the analytics. You can see the journey that they are taking.
Correct.
As well.
Yeah.
So does it work for both of you?
Massively, for two reasons. They're getting a huge amount of free content, which they can then choose if they wish to upgrade to more content. They can advertise and promote their own businesses to, we've got 53,000 people now, and that's growing. We've only been going for a few weeks. And so it's hugely beneficial. The great thing about the analytics side from us is that we can get a feel for our customers who are now on our platform before we engage with them to talk about the other resources we've got. We can see what they're watching, which mentors they're choosing. We can look at the profile they've created and see where they're based, what their business is doing, what their website is, and that adds a lot of bespoke value to the client, because when we get in contact with them, we're having a conversation that we know they're interested in. And on the other side of things is we don't ever assume, we ask the questions, but mentoring is there, and we've leveraged off technology to expand the mentoring angle inside. But the resources I'm talking about is we have a large sales team. We now rent out our salespeople to our clients if they wish.
Well, what we'll do, we're going to get onto that, because this is like a very bespoke way that you can put together your dream team without maybe the expense that you would traditionally have if you were going out and maybe having a dedicated sales team or a dedicated third party providing you with a sales team. So we'll talk more about that with Jonathan in just a few minutes' time on this edition of Business Connections Live.